All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today on the Cleaning Hustle. We got a super special guest here with us today. And of course, we got Chris. We don't know about him at all, what's up? So, Jared, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll just lead in right with that. We're all here to talk about the cleaning industry, so just kind of jump in.
All right. Very good. Well, gentlemen, thanks for having me on. Super happy to be here. We just flew in this morning. I was up at 3 a.m. with my son, Michael, and came here. He's here for a robotics tournament. So, yeah, so glad that you guys invited me to the show. I'm really happy to be here. So, excuse my dress wear. I just got off the airplane, but but happy to be here.
So, tell us what part of the world you live in. I was about to say country, but that's not even right.
Different country. Yeah. So we're in Calgary, Canada. That's where we come from. I've been there for 22 years now.
So were you born there?
No, I was born in Brandon, Manitoba, which is also in Canada, but a little bit further away. Yeah, so moved out there, went to school, took hotel restaurant management, and thought I wanted to get into the restaurant world. I love the idea of hospitality and service and just taking care of customers and giving them that wow experience. Always enjoyed that. Thought I would get that in restaurants until I realized how hard restaurants are.
Like this much.
That's truly 24/7, right?
Yeah, that's right. It really is. It really is.
That's one of the businesses we constantly talk about we would never want to get into.
Totally. Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, it could be worse.
Yeah.
Well, because I always think like how I act when I'm in a restaurant because I tend to be a little bougie about things, you know. So
Not you, Dan. No way.
I wouldn't want to be my own, trying to serve on me. Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it.
I can imagine it's even worse than that.
Yeah, no, it's a tough business. It really is, and I learned the hard way. But I enjoyed it, and the lessons were incredible because you really, like you said, you deal with the toughest customers, from all different perspectives, and you have to find ways to turn it around. And I learned that I was very good at that. Just by being sincere, genuine with the customer, it goes a long way. So I was thinking restaurants, then I saw there's no profit in there, tough work.
Yeah, very small margins, right? What's the average margin?
I mean, we were told that it's 5 cents on the dollar. That's how they kind of broke it down. Like every time you break a plate, there goes that 5 cents. And so
like I remember when my daughter was younger, she asked why do we have to tip? And I said, well, I think they're only making about $2 an hour because there's so low margin in this.
Yeah, that's right. It's a fickle business, that's for sure. Yeah.
And I'm sure it's even harder now with reviews and just everything that's out there. You can get slammed pretty quickly.
100%. Yeah. No, I'm glad I'm out of there. I still have nightmares about it. So that was how many years ago? About 14 years ago now.
Wow.
So so it's been a while. I was a manager in the restaurant industry. They invested a lot in me and my leadership. They put me through programs and courses and all that. And so no regrets by any means. And it gave me.
Were those proprietary programs with that organization, or was it some other outside third party program?
Yeah, so there was a leadership program that the restaurant was called Earl's, and they partnered with Cornell University.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the leadership program was through Cornell. So we got a certificate through Cornell University in leadership. And
wow.
That sort of thing. Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good, and again, great experiences. The culture was very, very good at Earl's. They did things really well. They're in the U.S. I don't think they're in Texas, but I learned so much from them. And so it was actually my wife's idea. By the way, I should go back. I was always an entrepreneur. I always knew I wanted to have my own business. When I was 12 years old, I was doing magic shows, for schools, seniors' homes, birthday parties, you name it. And I just enjoyed performing, and I enjoyed the idea of making money, it was cool,
And once it's in your blood, you cannot get it out.
That's it, exactly.
That's the same thing with me. I remember back when I was a kid, so my next door neighbor was trying to build a greenhouse, and it was just a small, maybe 20 by 10 foot. Well, his dad never did anything with it.
Right.
So I told my neighbor friend, I said, we're going to put a hobby store in here. So we went down to Walmart. Well, actually, I think it was Kmart back then. That's how old I am. We went down and bought all these little Hot Wheel cars and all these craft kits and put pegboard on the walls and hung them up. And we had our little cash register. And, the only customer we ever had was our parents, They'd come in just to be like, all right, I'll buy this and then give it right back to you.
300% markup.
But it was always that mindset of that, it started early on.
Oh, it's like you said, it's like either you have it or you don't. It's like that drive inside of you that's just this passion that's greater than just making money, but it's like an art, you know, like some people like to paint pictures, you know, or some people like to play sports, but my passion was business from day one. So you know, I was, as I was working at the restaurant, I wrote many business plans, from, you know, I wanted to open a coffee shop, a chain, or, you know, all sorts of different ideas, seniors homes, which probably would have been a good one now that with the market now. Yeah. I just didn't have the capital at the time. So, but you know, I wrote a lot of different business plans, and it was actually my wife that came, and her father was, and herself were refugees from northern Iraq. They came here with nothing in their pocket, and he became a janitor. And he was, you know, did that his whole life. He retired as a janitor, but his 5 kids were all very well educated. My wife's a lawyer, and they're all, you know, accountants.
And he did all that being a janitor?
That's right.
So did he pay for their schooling?
They paid for it.
Okay.
They paid for it. But what he taught them was work ethic, and values and all of that. And so what my wife said was, listen, you can find people like my dad that will be loyal to you forever if you treat them well. And, you know, you take care of them, and you can help them build their dream and their children's dream and their future generations. And she really painted that picture for me in my head. I was like, oh, there's something special here that we can do.
Yeah.
Help these people that are coming here that, you know, are struggling or may not have the opportunity, and we can help them build their dreams. Wow. So at first, I shouldn't say that's not what I caught on to right away. At first I was like, come on, I'm a cool guy in a restaurant, a trendy restaurant. I don't want to be a janitor. Yeah, exactly. I don't clean toilets, but then I started looking at the janitorial company at the restaurant that we were that I was managing, and first of all, what we were paying him, like, oh, we're paying him pretty good. But then more importantly is I was watching how he was treating his people, and he was yelling at them. He would come in at night and, you know, just treat them horribly, and like second-class citizens. And then I would ask him, hey, can you, his name was, I won't say his name. I'll leave it out. I'll leave it just in case, you know, I don't know where he is today, but it is a funny name, but for his business, but he,
so is he still in business today?
I have no idea. I'd be surprised. He was an older gentleman, but I said to him, you know, hey, can I see, you know, our contract? And he's like, oh, we don't have a contract. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, what are you responsible for? And he's like, starts listing it off. I'm like, oh, okay. Can you write it down for me, you know, and email it to me? He's like, I don't use email. Okay. Don't worry.
He's really old school.
Yeah, totally. I'm like, but you know, as I'm asking this question, I'm like, holy cow, like there's an opportunity here. Like this guy's so unprofessional, and he's doing well, you know, like making good money here. I did the math. And so that's when it really, I clued in. I was like, hey, there's an opportunity here. So at the same time, my now partner I hired him at Earl's. He was a backpacker from Australia, working at a summer camp. After the summer camp, he decided to stay. And so he was working, he came and applied at Earl's. And just an amazing guy. Like you've met Aaron, I believe.
I was gonna say, didn't I meet him in Vegas?
Yes, you did. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Very, very high integrity guy, and you know, willing to again work as hard as I was willing to work. Really intelligent, but his skill sets were completely different than my skill sets, which was perfect. And so I said to him, "Listen, I have an idea." And before I even said what it was, he said, "Count me in."
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like,
you guys connected that?
We did. We really did. And still to this day, it's the best relationship. Like, you know, like I can't imagine a better partnership. It's truly the reason I think why we're successful, because, you know, we're such a powerful team together.
So what is his, like, what are your guys' titles?
Yeah, for sure. So he's COO and I'm CEO. So, and it really is that way. So he's more of the, you know, operations, day-to-day systems, building the, you know, efficiencies within the business, processes, and he oversees the operations team. Where I'm the dreamer, I'm the big picture guy. I think he could probably relate to me.
Yeah.
But I can just tell. You know, and so I've been always pushing the sales and development and the vision and the mission and the branding, all of that, where he's on the back end holding the fort, you know, like really holding us together. So that was 14 years ago. Today, we're hovering right around. I think we're going to hit 5 million this year.
Awesome.
Yeah, right. We're right there.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty happy about that, but not satisfied. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
You always know there's more, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So how are you structured right now? I know you kind
Yeah.
of told me a little bit. So talk about how you get the buildings cleaned, how you're structured.
Yeah, so we have a mix of employees and subcontractors, really depending on the contract itself. If it dictates that it needs to be a full-time position, then we'll have an employee. If it's evening work and the hours are flexible, we'll typically look at subcontracting. Some clients say no, they need to be an employee, and we can do that too. But we have a lot of employees as a percentage. I've been saying about 150 people for a few years now, but I think we have about 150 people on our team. I think about 35 of those are employees, full-time employees, and the rest are subcontractors.
So when you're bidding those, you mentioned that some want a direct hire or a subcontractor. Do you bid those as a different rate based on that information?
No, we don't share that. We assume we can normally tell right off the bat if that's going to be a subcontractor contract or employee contract. And if they say ahead of time that has to be an employee contract, then we'll just bid it at that price. But we won't give the two options.
Right.
Yeah, we just assume it's going to be subcontractor.
Are you able to stay within the same margins using a direct hire situation as you would with a subcontractor?
No, the employee position would be a little bit tighter for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not significantly, but usually it's more volume on the employee role. So, where we have maybe 2 full-time staff working, at a site or whatever it may be. So we can kind of justify it. Okay, it's larger volume, therefore the margins can be a little bit smaller.
Right.
Where the smaller contracts, we couldn't do it with employees. There's no way.
Right. Yeah. I started the business with the daycare facilities.
Did you?
Yeah, we had initially we had about 28 Primrose schools, which is a franchise daycare, pretty
Amazing.
Popular.
Yeah.
And then it got to be such a pain in the neck that, well, here's what, and I'll give this advice to early on, somebody that's just starting in the business. But what I did was I put this package together. So it was like you get your 5 days a week cleaning, you get your strip and wax, you get all of these pieces of the package. And at the time, this was almost 20 years ago, it was like $1,150 a month for a 7,500 square foot building, which was great. But what happened was, as I got in, I started getting a reputation inside of that franchise network. So every owner wanted to do business with me.
Yeah.
And I got myself in a rut where I could never raise the price on the next bid because the owner would tell, like, yeah, this guy's awesome. He does this package. It's $1,150 a month, da-da-da-da-da. So I'd go in to bid it. And, by this time I had learned, like, hey, I need to put more money in for the floor work. I need to do this. So even one, I went in and I bid it at like $1,250, and the guy just looked at it and threw it back at me and goes, well, I know you're doing so-and-so's for $1,150. And I was like, come on, man, I can't keep doing
Back
this.
me into a corner over here.
So, so it got to the point where I had put myself kind of in that box and I could never get out of it.
Yeah.
And so my only way to get out of it was just to start phasing them out.
No kidding.
So I told the team, I said, like whenever we get another $1,200 a month account, we'll just either let that account go, give them notice, or a lot of them, I actually just called our subcontractor and said, hey, do this account direct with the customer. And then I'd call the customer and say, hey, we're going to let the crew do it direct with you. And then we'd help them write up a contract and let them continue that business. It took me 9 years to get rid of all of them.
Wow.
Yeah, so the very last one that I got rid of was 9 years from when we started doing all that because she refused to let me fire her.
It sounds like you did it in a real classy way. I mean, you probably could have just walked away and said, I'm done, but you didn't want to leave them hanging, it sounds like. So.
Yeah, and there was nobody that's like, if anyone wants to get into the business, that's a really easy point of entry because there's a dire need in that space.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to do daycares. They're difficult. A lot of them. Now, I got fortunate because the franchise ones had a really high standard. They expected the buildings to be a certain way. They had, all of the owners were very financially well off. It was kind of like getting qualified for a Chick-fil-A or something like that. And so every owner that I dealt with, they had money. They were all about, top notch. In fact, I was so impressed I put my own kid through it. Amazing. So all their pre-K programs and stuff, I put my own kid through it. And so, we had the advantage that they had money and they were willing to spend, whereas most daycare facilities, they don't. they're barely making, they're one kid away from going out of business.
Right, right. Yeah,
so.
no, for sure. I'll say our client is unbelievable. They're so good to us, and yeah, they've been wonderful. Not the same, like not the same experience that you. The margins are reasonable, not crazy or anything, but they're reasonable. But they're a really good client.
Are you doing all those with subcontractors? Or are you able to?
Yeah, they're all subcontractors. Those ones. Yeah, for sure.
And the thing I liked, I mean, I was super transparent. Like, hey, this is so low, I got to put a sub in here. So when I went back to them and said, hey, why don't you just hire this guy direct? It was already a no-brainer for them. They're like, oh yeah, they've been cleaning my building for 5 years now, no problem.
Yes, and they'll probably get a raise too.
Yeah, and they got a raise because I was able to help the subcontractor get what we were paying, what they were paying us. So now they got an immediate raise, and we walk away, everybody's happy.
That's win-win.
So,
well done.
Yeah,
well done.
Yeah, so
amazing. Very cool.
So yeah, continue on. Tell us a little more.
Okay, where are we? So I mean, so that's us today. Like we have quite a diverse amount of portfolio. Like I mean, from the daycares to churches to gyms to schools to office buildings. We're really trying to position ourselves in the office space. We're now kind of looking at the downtown office buildings, and we kind of got a taste of one and really liked it and feel that we belong there. So we're spending a lot of time just doing that. I started my own podcast. I don't know if
I saw that. Yeah, the Property Manager podcast.
That's right.
So where do they find you for that?
Well, I often to start, I've been finding them. I've been reaching out to originally just my network, and I've managed to get some. Really
so are they your customers typically that you're bringing on there?
It's about 50-50. Yeah,
so what made you, I was always curious, and I haven't had a chance to ask you this question.
Yeah.
So what made you do a Property Manager podcast versus something like we're doing here that's towards the cleaning industry?
Yeah, exactly. So the way I saw it was our ideal customer. So we let me go back a little bit. We took a university program for our business. It was a scaling program that the university offered. And through that, so it was really cool because, as you know, we're often in the day-to-day and the grind and so much is going on. This really forced us to step out and really analyze the business and from an academic perspective, which, I mean, I haven't done in a long time. And so it was really valuable. So through that, we really identified, who's our ideal customer. And that ideal customer profile is the property manager. Yeah. So the way I saw it was, well, for me to serve them, I have to become an expert in who they are. I have to know them inside and out, and I need to know more of them. So I figured, what better way to do a podcast to get to know them, but also this is a huge sales tool for anyone watching right now in the janitorial world. People will usually just ignore you if you ask, hey, can I talk to you, or take you for coffee. But if you're asking them to come on a podcast, they want to be the star, right? It's an opportunity for them to share their story, right? And people love that, and it's special because that it's a legacy. They're leaving a legacy of who they are. So, so now I'm meeting people in the property management world that I never would have met, prior, and building these great relationships and learning about them and understanding it. So now I can speak their language. It's just been so valuable, and many doors are opening up right now. And I'm like, we just started in November, so how many months that is, but there's a lot of things happening from it.
So do you have a YouTube channel with that on?
Yep, Mastering Property Management. Yeah,
okay,
it's on there.
That's where they find you on YouTube if somebody wants to watch it.
You can watch it, exactly.
Okay,
you got it.
That's really cool. That's a totally different dynamic going in from single tenant space into the multi-tenant space.
Yes,
that's the single tenant's more of a short game type of point of view, and the multi-tenant, that's a long game. That's all about relationships and building those. And I think you have the right approach of just kind of trying to understand them and meeting where they are, because they all have their own stories. I mean,
totally.
Anytime you have a property downtown, you're going to have some stories to share.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. You're right. It has really humanized that world for me.
Yeah.
And it is like in Calgary, where I'm from, it's a super small world. Like everyone knows each other. I think what's the population in Dallas? It's probably pretty similar.
I think we're at, I think combined total, we're at like 8 million, something like that.
Yeah, and it's growing exponentially. Yeah.
But that's not Dallas proper. That would be like all the city. Like you can drive for 60 miles and never, like, it's all city.
All populated. So different in Canada.
Yeah. You can start over there and drive all the way there and go 60 miles, and it's just solid buildings from one end to the other.
Yeah. Good for business.
Yeah, great for business. We never run out of people to call.
It's amazing.
So one thing about the property management game that I like is, we've with my sales team, we've kind of been discussing, treating everybody equally. And one thing that's more predominant in it is in the property management world, because you're dealing with a lot of folks, whether they're facilities, operations managers, assistant managers that are climbing up the ranks.
Yes.
So you don't want to just isolate property managers, because when they retire, you have to look down the wings and just treat everybody with respect.
Actually, some of them were like at one point the front desk secretary.
Oh,
right? And they worked there. Actually, one of them, we just found out that one of our old subcontractors is now a property manager over a huge building. So they walked in, and the lady's like, "Hey, I know you guys. I used to be a sub for y'all."
That was so surreal.
So it's always that, it's that that level of treat everybody
totally
equal.
It's funny. It's like you've watched my podcast, because that's the theme that often comes up is the people on my podcast is like, we started from like from nothing. I was a secretary, or I was an on-site manager. That's over and over again consistently what people are saying. So you're 100% right about that.
And selling to property managers, I think it's important that not only are the management aspects important to them, but also their reputation's important, because they're trying to build their portfolio just like we are.
Yeah.
So especially if they're starting out new to the position, they're entrusted with one building where they're trying to expand that to 2 buildings, 3 buildings, 4 buildings. So it's very important for us on the janitorial side to help them build them. Like I always tell my property managers, hey, it's my job in the janitorial industry to take that management style or take that management piece, janitorial, off your plate, put it on my mind, but also help you build a reputation. Try to make it personal. 100%. Try to make you look good, not only from in front of your colleagues, because once you build that rapport, I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten calls by property managers. Hey, ownership's coming into town.
Right.
Hey, I got these high-profile clients that are coming into town. Please throw us a bone, Integrity. Come and help us.
Yes.
And you know what? We're there for you. Yeah, we work together as a team. And guess what? We come through shining. And before you know it, 6 months later, when bidding season's back up, hey, they remember those little things.
Totally. Yeah, it really goes a long way. You're right. We always say, like, our job is to make your life easy.
Yep.
And that's all they want.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to think about things. They
No.
just want us to take care of it and out of sight, out of mind. So very well.
So what's the most impactful podcast that you've done so far?
Oh, wow. Okay. Good question.
Because what I'm going to do is drive them right back to yours so they can watch.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for sure. Oh man, there's a few, and I don't want to offend the others, but I'm going to name 2. So one is with a gentleman named Scott Hutchison. So Scott Hutchison is the executive chair of Aspen Properties in Calgary and Edmonton as well. And so they have about 1.2 billion in assets.
Wow.
And so he founded it. Actually, his whole thing, as they say on his website, started by renting out or borrowing a boardroom from their friend. But that one has been incredibly impactful. I learned so much from him and have managed to maintain a relationship with him. And that's really special. That podcast there's so much gold in there. He's a really important figure from where we're from. That was a good one. The other one was really neat. So it was actually with my second cousin, once removed. I think, my dad's second cousin.
Right.
But I never met him. And so his name.
So you guys met on the podcast?
We met on the podcast.
Wow,
so cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So his name's Sandy Schindelman, and he's got, I believe, the largest development company and property management company in Manitoba, which would be like another province equivalent to a state, to like Texas kind of thing. He's big time. Like he builds out, like Home Depots, Walmarts, and that sort of thing. But then they're managed as well in big condo buildings and all that kind of stuff. So having him on was really neat because he's related to me. He's just, ever since, he's been like reaching out to me and trying to be supportive of me. And his whole mission is helping others, succeeding by helping others succeed.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
which is powerful, right? And
It's a lot like the Zig Ziglar quote.
Yeah.
Which is you help enough people get what they want, you'll automatically get what you want.
Yep. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And he lives it. Like he's been like nonstop, like sharing my posts on LinkedIn, and like this guy doesn't have to do that, you know.
Right.
He's like been really supportive. So I think those two, but I mean honestly, like I can name every single one of them has been awesome. Like I'm just so grateful for each one.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And where are you recording those at?
In my home office.
Yeah.
Not like this beautiful studio. Like putting these on, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
This is next level. This is next level. Yeah.
So how is that? Because I would have a mental hurdle on a property manager coming to my house to shoot a podcast. So there's a lot of, like, most people in our industry that wanted to get into doing a podcast or anything like that, they're going to do just what you're doing.
Right.
And so I want to hear like a word of encouragement to help someone get over that mental hurdle of like, you got a person with a multi-billion-dollar portfolio and they're coming to your house to do a podcast. Like, what's the thought process when you're getting prepped for this person?
So let me be clear. Just so we actually do it. We do it virtually.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we do it virtually.
Okay.
And mostly because I don't have a studio like this, but it's managed to work really well. Like I have a really good editing team, and if anyone wants to use them, by all means, I'd be happy to share that editing team with anyone. And they're awesome. And so they make me look really good. And
I've seen it. They're super professional.
Yeah,
they look really good.
Yeah, it's good quality stuff, right? And so they just set me up to begin with. They set up, like, got me the mic, got the lighting, all that. And then basically I just push the button, record, send it to them, and they take care of the rest. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So that takes a little bit of that barrier off.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Because they don't know if you're sitting in a big old building or you're sitting in your living room.
Right. That's right. Exactly.
Well, now they do.
We just ruined it all. Yeah.
Sorry about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the plan for the future?
We've been kind of going back and forth. We spent a few years really thinking about acquisitions, and we were kind of speaking briefly about that. We've struggled to find a good match, that just kind of culturally speaking or value-wise, maybe one of them was highly concentrated in 5 clients, and they weren't willing to give an earn-out.
Sure.
Just different scenarios that just never could match, and so we spent a lot of energy and a lot of money and exhausted that. And so right now I'm saying enough is enough. Like, let me just refocus back to the organic growth. And that's kind of where we're at now. But we are growing outside of Calgary. And so we're thinking aggressively about going kind of national. But it might be a little early. We don't want to do it without sacrificing service.
Right.
That is critical. And we've built this reputation in Calgary that, like, we're the best. Like, our service is top notch. It's like boutique, high quality. Like over the top. We invest like way more than anyone else in management and in people. And so because of that, it's going to be very hard to break that. I wouldn't say break that model, but it's going to be a different model going national. So that's what we're deciding. How do we attack that without sacrificing service? Because I have pretty high standards. So,
So what is your ratio of ops persons to clients?
Yeah.
Do you do that based on buildings or based on revenue?
Yeah. So my partner has all sorts of formulas on that. And he's like, we've yet to figure out the exact science, but he's got a bunch of them. And he's always testing it out. And so often it's number of clients, but then he gives a score to the one. So one might take more weights than another one, so he's got all sorts of different.
So if this one's a little more high maintenance, it may count for 3 clients compared to a different client.
Kind of like that, exactly. And then he has a revenue per custodian or per manager as well. But basically, we're at about 40 sites per operation manager.
And what does that equate to in revenue typically?
Well, that's a good question. So we have about 235. So if anyone has a calculator, we'd have to work backwards, but. We have about 235 sites, so divide that by 40, and then do 5 million into that. So whatever that is, I'll let you guys at home.
There you go.
But my partner has those numbers. I don't have them.
The reason why it's a constant debate around here.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always pushing for more. It's that okay, is it 140,000 a month? Is one guy? Is it, you know? And I'm like, all right, well, if you say it's 140, I want to push to 175. You know, it's like, where is that sweet spot?
For sure.
And he was actually part of the company that I acquired last year, and so they brought in kind of their principles, because when I met them, I remember some of the ops team only had like 10 clients. And I was like, what? My ops guy's got 160. Like, what's up with this? This is really jacked, right? So trying to figure that out, not burning out an individual, because, you know, obviously you're giving your clients great service, but you also have the culture of your company, and you don't want to be part of a great culture is obviously not burning them out, right?
That's right.
So it's trying to find that magic sweet spot where they're not underworked, so they don't have enough to do, and then they're overworked, and you're constantly in that middle piece trying to figure that out.
And it's not apples to apples from single tenant to multi-tenant. So we were multi-tenant essentially. Right. So how we did it was we broke it down by square footage. So it was one operations manager per million square feet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's typically how we did it. Just kind of kept it simple that way.
Okay.
Of course, you know, you throw in some of the problem children's, you know, problem buildings, problem.
You spend all day.
Managers. Yeah. You can spend like all day, you know, with one property manager, because again, it's all about that relationship. So it's I wouldn't say it's fair to compare, you know, apples to apples that way. And that's something you might want to think about too as you're expanding into the multi-tenant, you know, realm. Is it's while it's still cleaning, there's some different elements that
we have really discovered that multi-tenant and single tenant are two different worlds. The expectations, how the managers manage the buildings. The relationships are different.
It really is.
You know, you don't typically take a single tenant customer to like a ball game, whereas the property managers will literally call you and say, hey, when are you taking me to a Rangers game? You know, so it's a completely different. And what I've noticed is, because the multi-tenant is so competitive, that it drives that, oh, what are you going to do for me from the property managers? And so you're constantly in this balance of, you know, you go spend $3,000 or $4,000 on a lead to take them to a game, and then does that ever attribute into actually gaining their business?
Right.
Or are they just going around to their vendors getting free different things? So
and that's why I say it's important to kind of tug on their heartstrings, and that's why I mention reputation a lot. In addition to those things, because you have to make it personal. That property manager, I'm trying to help you with, you know, professional advancement here within your career. So just make it a partnership. You know, and that's where you want to go. You don't want to. You want to take that away from that transactional type of relationship. Move into partnership. So while I can't, you know, why we might not having a budget to take you to the expensive ball game, etc. Here's what I can provide. Here's what I can guarantee.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. I love
that.
Well,
and we just literally fired a customer that was 300,000 square foot worth of buildings. We actually had 5 buildings with them. And we went to them and basically said, like, here's where we're at. We're losing money on this. These are all the different criteria. And then they, you know, we had this back and forth for about a month trying to figure it out. They finally refused to budge. They weren't going to give us any more. And the conversation I had with them was, we want to be a lifetime partner with you. But they didn't want to reciprocate that back. It was all about what's on a spreadsheet, and whether, you know, and so it was really like, at that point we decided, you know, they did agree to 2 of their buildings becoming part of our quote unquote partnership, but the other 3, they were like, we'll just find another vendor. We don't care. And so it's almost like that piece of, you choose the customers you want to do business with. Because it, you know, then you can develop those long-term. You know, we have clients on the books that have been with us since 2005.
Amazing.
Like from the beginning. Like the very first big contract that I sold was one where the guy, I had a 2-hour conversation with him. He was like, man, I really like you. In 2 hours, we never even mentioned janitorial one time. And then we got to the end of the conversation. He was like, I really like you. If, you know, my budget's $100,000 a year. If you can make my facility work and fit it in that budget, you got the business.
Amazing.
And we've had it ever since. And we're coming up on 20 years with them, you know. And so those are the kind of people that I want to have partner and relationship with. And I, you know, it's like, I come up and there's this big debate on whether we want janitorial contracts or not, right? And so you'll meet a customer and we'll say, well, you know, you have a 30-day notice, or your competitor is going to have a 1-year contract with an automatic renewal and all these things you got to do to get out of it. And so when I'm on a sales call, I always tell them, hey, I'm in the business of, if I like you and you like me, contracts don't matter. That's just laying out the scope of work and what you're willing to pay for that scope of work. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to do business with me because you don't like me, then I don't want to keep doing business with you. Yeah, it's not a good fit for either one of us. Then why are we tied into a contract in a relationship that both parties are miserable? Because you're complaining all the time. We're unhappy because you're complaining all the time. You're disgruntled. You don't want to. And so it's like, why have all of that?
That's right.
When you can find somebody you want to do business with, and so can we.
Yeah, that was our philosophy as well. When we first started, it's like, we if you're not happy, we don't deserve your business. So we're not going to lock you into anything. Eventually, we did change that a little bit, only to protect our custodians.
Right.
You know, because, you know, we just want to make sure that they have a little bit of breathing room to prepare.
Yeah.
You know, otherwise we would have nothing.
Yeah. Currently, like ours is a 30-day notice, which typically gives us an opportunity to either find a new place for them or whatever.
Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
But the partnership aspect, kind of circling back to that, you know, you hit it right on the head, Dan, is like you want to do business with people who want to do business with you, because that's what a partnership is. If I'm looking out for your best interest and you're looking out for my best interest, then it works.
Totally.
But if I'm being self-centered and just focusing on my own needs rather than, you know, yours, then it don't work.
That's right.
So but that all just boils down by the trust factor.
Yeah.
Right. So if I can prove to you, I promise to do X, Y, Z, and I fulfill that, and you promise to be, you know, a good proprietor to working with me, then, you know, when things go wrong, you're honest enough to tell me, hey, this is what's going wrong with the cleaning.
Yes.
Then you have a partnership.
Exactly.
There. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. And by the way, I want to touch too on, you know, I think you were talking, you know, about subcontractors and that, and I think it's a myth that you can't have good culture with subcontractors.
I agree.
You know, and I just wanted to kind of bring that up is that, you know, I believe that we have, I mean, you might say the same thing, but I believe we have the best culture in the world in the janitorial industry, you know, and I'm certainly striving for that every day, you know, and I'm held accountable to that. I really want everyone to hold me accountable to that. And a lot of that is subcontractors, but you can still treat them incredibly well without crossing the legal lines, you know.
And I think one of the keys that we've had to be, and, you know, probably you'll agree with me, is the key to a good subcontract relationship is mutual respect.
Yeah.
And what I've seen over the years, and I've seen this in my own team when I've had a rogue operations manager that didn't understand that concept. Like you were talking about earlier at the restaurant, talking down to us, making them feel less than, making them feel like a second-class citizen. And then it's almost like this war. It's us against them. And it's this reality of, if I approach it with, just like us sitting here, you're a business owner, I'm a business owner, and we have mutual respect for each other in our spaces. If we approach our relationships with our subcontractors with that same mindset, doesn't matter if they're starting out. This is their very first building. It doesn't matter if they're doing $10 million a year as a subcontractor. That respect level is exactly the same.
Beautifully said.
And even if you can respect where they're at in their entrepreneurial journey and show them that respect, they're going to go a million miles for you.
Totally.
Every single time.
That's beautifully said. Like I always see it as they don't work for me. I actually work for them.
Yes.
You know, and I'm here to give them the tools and the resources and the support and the coverage if they need it, you know, to succeed. But I work for them. Like, I'm here to serve them. And I say that to our managers as well. Like, we're here to serve the custodians.
But you just never know when that's going to come back to you. Like, just last week, like you were talking about earlier in the show about that assistant property manager.
Yeah, the funny thing is this property manager actually did free coaching with her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's like full circle now, 10 years later, right? Because we did this little drawing with all of our subcontractors, like, hey, we're going to put your name in the hat, and whoever gets drawn gets free coaching with Dan.
Cool. Oh, cool.
And so she got like a 6-week course with me, and then full circle 10 years later, now she's on the table to be whether
10 years later,
whether she can hire us or not.
Awesome. And she knew the name exactly. I dropped Dan's name like instantly. She's like, oh, I remember that great guy.
Probably had a real impact on her.
Yeah, it did.
That's amazing.
Even though she changed industries.
Yeah.
So you just never know. You just never know.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So awesome. No, and that's one of the things. It's funny because I was just gonna say, well, we have an acronym called DISH around here, and you've already hit on 2 of our points. Our DISH is our acronym for basically what our culture and our core values are. but it's dream builder. So you hit that one.
Yes.
Our second one is inspiring or being and living inspired. And then our S is for servant leadership.
Yes.
And then H is that we want to, I'm a legacy guy. So I always want to think about, like, if you start with the end in mind, like, what are they going to say about you when they put you in the ground? What is it when they get up to that podium and they talk about Jared? What are they going to say?
Totally.
And so it's living honorable and honest.
Love it.
And then driving with hustle.
Oh.
And so, those are the pieces of who we are in our culture. And that's really what we're trying to develop, because if you can develop your subcontractors' dreams, then
it's special. There's no better feeling. It's like, talk about, like, a serotonin high, like when you're like, like we had by the way, I love Dish. That's amazing. We get along very well. Now I understand why
you're going out. I'm like, okay, did he read our book? Yeah, he did.
No cheating.
Exactly. But no, when we had one of the most special moments of our business was when he started off as a custodian. We promoted him to manager, and then he bought his own home, through his first home through our business. And not only did he do that, but
why are you stealing my stories?
Oh, really? The same thing?
Same exact thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I had a guy named Jose. I remember he come running and he had his keys jingling in the air. And he goes, I just got my first home, and he was jumping up and down, and he's the same exact thing. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, really, yeah.
Those are the moments you live for, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
You're giving me. If I can follow in your footsteps, Dan, I'll be honored. So this is cool. This is inspirational. But yeah, no, and then our whole team actually helped him move in.
Oh,
which
wow.
was so even cooler.
Well, you got
right?
me there.
Yeah, I topped you. Okay, awesome.
You did it.
But yeah, it was amazing. Just when he was showing me around, and he pulled me aside and said, "This is because of you."
Yeah.
And there's
there's not a dollar in the world that changes that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Wow.
And what goes around comes around, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Make that lifelong friendship and partnership.
Yes. Yeah, I think Howard Schultz said there's a beautiful space in this world where you can make a lot of money and do a lot of good. And that's the space I want to live in. So far, I'm doing a lot of good.
Yeah.
But one day I'll be making a lot of money.
It'll come around. It will.
Yeah,
no doubt.
So,
well, we're gonna have to wrap it up here.
I was saying, before we wrap up, I have two questions.
Yeah.
First off, what was your go-to magic trick? Your most profitable magic trick when you were a kid.
Okay.
And then number two, I want to get your son's opinion on the future of janitorial, where the robots are taking over.
Amazing. All
Since
right.
he's here for robot
I love
competition.
it. I love it. Okay. So my go-to magic trick. All right. Well, I had a couple, but I think my favorite was this rod that had 6 colors, and then you have to pick, either. So you say pick a number between 1 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
So you can work your way. So if they say 3, you go 1, 2, 3. But if they say 6, you say SIX. But no matter what, you land on blue. and then you flip it, and it all turns blue. And it's like kind of a trick of the hand. You can make it all look blue. So
and it works every time.
It worked. Yeah, I loved it. So that was my favorite one. But Michael, I don't know if he can hop on or how.
Have him jump in the seat.
You got a second?
You want to come on, Michael? Sure. Come on, buddy. Should I give him these?
Yeah.
Oh, this is awesome. Come on, buddy. All right. There you go.
You're gonna have to hold him a little bit and talk in the mic.
Turn this way.
Introduce yourself.
Here, I'll step out of the way.
Yeah, jump in that seat.
Get in the chair, buddy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so I am Michael Sarbit, Jared Sarbit's son, and you guys said, what's my view on the janitorial world?
Yes. Do you think with AI and the robotics industry, the way the direction it's heading now, do you think those janitorial jobs will eventually start shifting that way?
I mean, I think it'll probably last like about, because like it was the same thing with like tractors a few years ago, is like, because those came and everybody thought the farming industry was gone, but like it's still there, right? Like people still have to like drive the tractors. It might be something different with AI, like completely different. Because AI is like this huge next step. It can do its own things. It's like everything pretty much.
Yeah. We're like talking about like Tesla robots with Optimum.
Yeah.
We're looking at that as I believe that the robots will eventually take at least 50% of our workload. Like, especially in the janitorial space. So we're looking at like, okay, do we lease robots and then lease them back to their to our clients or things like that. So, you being young and you're here for a robotics thing, and you're kind of probably already tracking the AI pieces of it, right? So you're looking at that. What do you think that time? Like, do you think in 10 years those robots are going to develop enough to where they can start doing human tasks?
Unless there's like a huge boost in the robotics industry, and there already is, but like a really big one. I don't think it'll be 10 years, maybe 15, 20. But I think the janitorial company, like, you'll have your job for like quite a bit, and they'll probably still have like pretty much actually still have to be like human leaders, because like human entrepreneurs founding things, because a robot, an AI's mind doesn't have creativity. If you guys ever heard this, it might evolve in the future, but a robot's mind is like based off of everything it sees on the internet, right? It's not creating its own thoughts, it's finding everybody else's thoughts and then sort of basing off that. So I think definitely not 10 years, maybe the next 15. Like, it'll definitely take like some vacuuming jobs, like we already have Roombas, right? Where you can set like to go this direction for 5 seconds, then this direction. Like, I could code a Roomba myself, I can make one. Actually, matter of fact, I already have for fun. It was just a mini one. I think, do you know what? Yeah, like 15, 20 years.
Nice.
Yeah, well, it's
Can
funny.
you make me one too? I need to get one of those.
Bring that up because I've never actually thought of the fact that they have to be free thinkers a little bit. It's like they have to. They're robotic. They're very based on what they're programmed to do. They're not going to be like, oh, well, they moved that trash can. So, those free thinking things that we do in our industry. So that's very cool. So, well, awesome. I'm glad you got to come on here. And we need to do a whole hour with you now.
Yeah, good luck with your competition.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Are you going to be an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer when you grow up? Or
Maybe. I'm also like a huge like paleontology fan.
Okay.
Like, I'm always like there was like I have National Geographic stuff, and it's like,
well, you need to go to the Perot Museum, which is right.
Yeah, that was mentioned. We were told about that. So
it's an amazing museum.
You'll get a kick out of that.
It's a really tall museum. I think it's almost as tall as this building. Yeah, so it's got a lot of really cool exhibits. Yeah,
isn't there like a T-Rex model there?
Yeah, and there's an outside escalator that goes on the outside of the building. So it's really cool. You got to check it out. So, well, anyway, we'll wrap it up there. But thanks for being our guest. Yeah,
thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome. Thanks. You're the first expert we've had on the show. So congratulations.
All right.
Perfect. Okay, off you go. All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Jared, and thank you for bringing your son. That's super cool.
Truly a pleasure. That just made my day.
Yeah,
sure
that's
made
awesome.
his too. So thanks for having him on.
Absolutely.
Well, great. Well, everybody, thanks for joining Cleaning Hustle. Definitely look Jared up. Look at his property managers. I know I'm going to get on there and watch it now. I know I've seen your reels, but I haven't actually watched a full episode. So I'm going to get on there and definitely watch that. So, well, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for coming all the way from Canada and hanging out with us for a little bit.
Truly my pleasure. I'm really honored and just so cool to get a tour of your office and see what you guys are doing, and you got something really special going on here.
Thank you.
So I'm really glad to have been here. Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. All right.